to the Genealogy News from Geneatopia. I'm Patty Roy, also known as Dinah Larkin in Second Life. Today is Sunday, April 9th, 2017, and this is episode 100. Genetic Communities, or GCs, were released by Ancestry on March 28th. A GC is a group of AncestryDNA test takers who all descend from a particular population of ancestors from 1700 to 1850. Anyone who's tested their DNA with Ancestry will have access to this new feature. There are clusters of individuals that represent distinct populations. People placed in the clusters share a long IBD, or identical by descent, segment. You won't match everyone in the cluster, but everyone in the cluster matches other people in it. Ancestry has a paper about this in Nature Communications. Originally, 2 million AncestryDNA test takers were used to create 300 genetic communities. These 2 million were people who allowed their DNA to be used for research. This research was started a couple of years ago, and that's how many people were in the database at the time who agreed to let their DNA be used for research. This paper and genetic communities were announced by Tim Sullivan at RootsTech this past February. These GCs were created by analyzing the DNA results at AncestryDNA with their matches for all users to make a very large network. Then they looked for concentrated clusters in the large network. These clusters, or subnetworks, contain people who are related, and these clusters are genetic communities. The ethnicity results for each member of a cluster was examined to see which ethnicities were the most popular among everyone. For each cluster, pedigrees were examined for the people in the cluster to look for ethnic origins for the ancestors of those in the cluster. Many trees on Ancestry are not sourced and even incorrect. Because there are so many people in the cluster, the bad trees become insignificant. The correct trees tend to match each other and outweigh the bad trees. The names and dates are not being used for the analysis, the location is. A reference panel is created for each GC. The clusters can't be recreated every time a new person gets their DNA results, so a reference panel is used. The reference panel is a subset of the GC, and it's a good representation of the GC. You are assigned a confidence level for how well you fit in a GC. When you log in to see your results, you will see this confidence level for each genetic community you are in. That way you can know how likely you belong in that community. Since everyone has different DNA, they will be assigned to different sets of communities. Siblings may have the same family, but they inherited different DNA, so their communities will be different. Your family tree on Ancestry is not used to assign you to a GC. Those without trees on Ancestry are placed in GCs. Your DNA is used to place you in a community. The trees were only used to create the communities. This is good for adoptees who may not have a tree, since a GC can pinpoint a location for ancestors and then find matches for those communities. GCs for you are found where you view your genetic ancestry from the page with your ethnicity. Genetic communities will be below the ethnicity estimates. Most people will have a couple of GCs. Some may not have any. Each community will have time spans listed. Clicking on a time span will give you some history about the area and how many in your tree match this area for that time frame. It will also list your ancestors who belong in this cluster. The history may explain how the population arrived in this place, such as where most of them immigrated from. There are different clusters for the same place, so those ancestors listed in the cluster may belong to another cluster for the same place. The reason clusters overlap is because an area can have different populations within it, such as a large Irish group and a large Italian group living in the same area. When you first bring up a GC, you are in the story part with the history and time frames. Clicking Connection will bring up more information. Your connection tells you about the confidence level that you belong in the GC, how many of your DNA matches are in this community, a list of your GC matches that are in the GC, and associated last names for the community. These are not last names from your tree, even though you may see some similarities. On your list of matches is a Genetic Communities button where you can filter your matches by GC. This will make it easier to try to find a common ancestor with your matches. You will now know the location where the common ancestor came from, making it easier to find out who it is. Currently, there are 300 genetic communities. More will be coming. For now, this means that you may not match communities you think you should be in, and your close relatives will show up in different communities. Remember that everyone has different DNA, so they will match differently. You may think that all your close relatives would be in the same GC, but in reality, they have different DNA, so will match differently. Hopefully these new communities will encourage those who only test their DNA for ethnicity results will go on to explore their family history and create a tree on Ancestry. If you only tested to know your ethnicity, which shows where your DNA came from hundreds or thousands of years ago, you will also get these genetic communities that will explain where your ancestors came from a few hundred years ago. You don't need a paid subscription to see your genetic communities. This new feature may prompt people to look a little further to figure out who their ancestors are and maybe contact their DNA matches. Family Tree DNA has updated the mitochondrial DNA haplogroup assignments for all customers to Build 17. This is the latest version of the mitochondrial tree according to PhyloTree. PhyloTree tracks the mutations that have formed from mitochondrial Eve, the first woman ancestor of everyone. This means that your mitochondrial DNA haplogroup from Family Tree DNA may be different, and it will be the most up-to-date. This new build is based on much more information to provide a finer resolution of haplogroup assignments. Family Tree DNA has also updated My Origins. This is their ethnicity report. They've increased the reference populations from 18 to 24. This means that your ethnicity values will be different. The page that shows the results lets you click on the percentages to show some information about the population, and it now shows trace results, which are very small percentages. The Family Tree DNA Learning Center will soon have information about the new My Origins. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has granted 23andMe authorization to begin offering 10 new genetic health risk reports. These reports show whether you have genetic variants that increases the chance of developing certain health conditions. If you do not have the variant, it doesn't mean that you don't have a risk for the health conditions. For several years, 23andMe has been working with the FDA to meet their requirements about their testing. 23andMe will continue to submit additional genetic health risk reports for the FDA's consideration. With this latest round of approvals for more reports, it should be easier for future FDA approval of other reports because 23andMe will only need to demonstrate that the new reports are similar to what has already been approved. The newly approved reports are for Parkinson's disease, late-onset Alzheimer's disease, hemophilia type C, celiac disease, hereditary thrombophilia, a condition for developing blood clots, hereditary hemochromatosis, a genetic condition where the body absorbs too much iron, Gaucher disease, a rare genetic condition that affects many organs, GCPD deficiency, a condition characterized by episodes of anemia, early onset primary dystonia, a condition characterized by involuntary muscle contractions, and alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, a condition that can lead to lung and liver disease. These new reports will be released sometime in April. 23andMe customers in the U.S. will be notified when these reports become available. The release of the latest version of Family Tree Maker was postponed at the last minute. It was supposed to be released at the end of March. This new version has the new way to sync your tree from your desktop version of Family Tree Maker with your Ancestry tree. The new feature is called Family Sync. There have been some problems with Family Sync, and that's why the release of Family Tree Maker 2017 was postponed. While Software Makiev works on the new release of the software, existing versions of Family Tree Maker will still work with Ancestry for hints, search, maps, and the web dashboard. No syncing, since the old way of syncing has been turned off at Ancestry. There have been over 1,000 beta testers helping to get these last bugs straightened out. Ancestry is also testing this new feature with Family Tree Maker. They performed a stress test to determine how fast the syncing is. They do this by simulating large numbers of users simultaneously syncing their trees. It was found to be very slow. Not only syncing for users, but the entire Ancestry.com website became slow. Now both sides will be testing to determine why the slowness occurs and correct it. Because of this problem, the release of Family Tree Maker may be staggered to prevent everyone from syncing their trees at the same time. There's no word when the software will be released. The next version of Roots Magic will allow syncing your tree from the Roots Magic software to your tree at Ancestry. This feature has been taking longer to implement than when originally planned. This new feature will be called Tree Share for Ancestry. Another new feature will be Web Hints for records found at Ancestry. The current version of Roots Magic has web hints that automatically search for matching records for your ancestors at Family Search, Find My Past, and MyHeritage. To connect Roots Magic and Ancestry, you will need a tree at one end. So you could download your Ancestry tree into a new Roots Magic file, or you can upload your Roots Magic file into a new online tree at Ancestry. If you want, you can have multiple family members connect their Roots Magic file to the same Ancestry tree. You will decide what data moves back and forth between the connected trees. Roots Magic Essentials, the free version of Roots Magic, will include tree share and web hints for Ancestry. The ability to compare and transfer individual records between Roots Magic and Ancestry will require a paid version. Tree share for Ancestry and web hints will be free in an update to Roots Magic 7. This new version of Roots Magic is expected to be available by the end of April. Another genealogy software program, Heredis, is looking for beta testers. They're working on a new version of the program for English-speaking users. They need beta testers for both the Mac and Windows versions. Heredis would like the beta testers to make recommendations for improving the program. Any genealogist is welcome to join the beta test, even if you've never used the Heredis program before. Just fill out a simple form to apply to be a beta tester. You can't disclose any information about the new version before it's released. Double Match Triangulator is a Windows program for analyzing DNA results. It generates Excel files based on double matching with DNA results. You need to get your matches results to do the double matching. It won third place in the Innovator Showdown at RootsTech this year. The program has been free, and now it will cost $40. This will give you a lifetime license, and all upgrades will be free. You can try the program for free, but you won't get to see any of the names of your matches. There is a new website for the program at doublematchtriangulator.com. Twile, the interactive timeline service, recently announced the ability for users to create an infographic from your family search family tree or by uploading a GEDCOM file. The infographic presents statistics from the family tree, such as average number of children per family, most common surnames, average ages for marriage and death, and other information. It can be downloaded and then you could print it. Because of feedback from users, you can now order a high-resolution printed copy directly from Twile. This can be framed and given as a gift to family. The 10x8 printed infographic costs $35. To encourage people to try it, the printed copy can be ordered at 40% off until the end of April. Go to twile.com/numbers to upload your tree and create an infographic. It's free. Some more new records at Family Search. There is a new index record collection for France, Côte d'Ivoire, Census 1891. Then there's a bunch of collections here that have index records added to an existing collection. Argentina, Catamarca Catholic Church Records, 1724 to 1971. Alaska Vital Records, 1816 to 1959. A whole bunch more for Argentina. I won't go through all the names here, but they're Catholic Church Records for various years. There's Australia, Victoria, Outward Passenger List, 1852 to 1924. Ecuador, Catholic Church Records, 1565 to 2011. The Find a Grave Index. Germany, Baden Church Book Duplicates, 1800 to 1870. Illinois, Cook County Birth Certificates, 1871 to 1940. There's a bunch of records for Italy for various places for civil registration. The Massachusetts Boston Crew List, 1917 to 1943. Minnesota Clay and Steele County Obituaries, 1865 to 2006. Netherlands Archival Indexes, Miscellaneous Records. New Hampshire Civil War Service and Pension Records, 1861 to 1866. New York State Census, 1865. New York Southern District U.S. District Court Naturalization Records, 1824 to 1946. Ontario County Marriages, 1858 to 1869. Pennsylvania Eastern District Petitions for Naturalization, 1795 to 1931. Peru Amazonas Civil Registration, 1939 to 1998. Peru La Libertad Civil Registration, 1903 to 1998. Portugal Stupolo Catholic Church Records, 1555 to 1911. South Carolina Deaths, 1915 to 1965. Sweden Kopparberg Church Records, and Sweden Norrbotten Church Records. And those have had index records added to an existing collection. And these last two collections here have had indexed records and images added to an existing collection. Argentina, Corinthians Catholic Church Records, 1734 to 1977. Peru, Puno Civil Registration, 1890 to 2005. You can now share your Instagram and Facebook photos directly to Family Search Family Tree. This new integration makes it easy to choose which photos from these social networks to link to people in Family Tree. This makes it easy for you to organize and preserve your family history photos for future generations. This will work with most browsers. If you use Internet Explorer or Edge browsers, you will need to add FamilySearch.org to your trusted sites list. Find My Past releases new records every Friday. They've added a collection called New Zealand University Graduates, 1870 to 1963. There are 2 new collections for Northamptonshire, Militia Lists, 1771, and Freeholders, 1795 to 1797. Over 10,000 records have been added to the Scotland Registers and Records. These records have been taken from different publications related to Scottish parishes and families. Some more Scottish records have been added for Scotland Roman Catholic Parish Congregational Records, Scotland Roman Catholic Parish Baptisms, Marriages, and Burials. There's a new collection called Britain Wills of Famous Persons, 1552 to 1849. Some more new records have been added to the Dorset Memorial Inscriptions Collection. Lots of new articles have been added to the Irish newspaper collection, including 5 new titles: Irish Society from Dublin, Irish News and Belfast Morning News, Sligo Journal, Sligo Observer, and Leinster Independent. Find My Past has launched a new project to publish parish records from 6 counties across England in 6 months. Wiltshire will be the first county to become available, and it's available now at Find My Past. The Wiltshire collection contains transcriptions of nearly 5 million parish records of baptisms, banns, marriages, and burials dating back to 1538. The other parishes that will have records available over the next few months are Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, Nottinghamshire, Somerset, and Warwickshire. Fold 3 has free access to the Civil War collection until April 15th. The Civil War began in April 1861. Some of the more popular titles in the collection include Civil War Widows' Pension Files, Civil War Pensions Index, Soldier Service Records, and Southern Claims Commission. There are photographs, maps, and slave records in the collection. You'll need to sign up for a free account to view the records. The student newspaper for the University of Michigan has been digitized. It's called the Michigan Daily. The years from 1890 to 2014 can be found at the University of Michigan website. You can search by date and topic or browse the newspapers. The Michigan Daily newspaper covered campus life, the city, state, and nation. It became a competitor to other Michigan newspapers since it covered everything. It's the 100th anniversary of the United States entering World War I. The Tennessee State Library and Archives has added some World War I records available online. After the war ended, the state of Tennessee began collecting records from Gold Star families. These are families that lost a son in the war. They collected letters, photographs, telegrams, and government letters that were sent to the family to notify them their son had been killed. The website Tennessee World War I Gold Families is searchable by soldier's name, county, or branch of service. There are more than 1,100 Tennessee soldiers in the database. There's a new free guide available called Maps of the First World War, an illustrated essay and list of select maps in the Library of Congress. Although these maps are not available online, the guide contains many images of maps and tells the history of World War I. The National Archives in the United States has a website dedicated to World War I. They've added to it many photographs from World War I. Through a generous donation from an anonymous donor, they have digitized over 110,000 photographs from nearly 300 reels of film related to World War I. Most of these photographs came from 2 series, the American Unofficial Collection of World War I Photographs and the Photographs of American Military Activities. Both these series document American activity on the home front and on the battlefield. The first collection was created by the Committee on Public Information when they collected photographs from private photographers and federal agencies to sway public opinion in favor of the war. The second collection comes from the Army Signal Corps. This collection contains images from many wars. 2 other series that have been digitized are German Military Activities and Personnel, 1917 to 1918, and British Photographs of World War I, 1914 to 1918. All of these photographs are now freely accessible at the World War I portal. The Vimy Foundation preserves and promotes Canada's First World War legacy as symbolized with the victory at Vimy Ridge in April 1917. This battle helped shape Canada as a major force during World War I. The Battle of Vimy Ridge was fought in France, with the Canadians capturing the ridge from the Germans. The Vimy Foundation has created a database of the soldiers who died in the Battle of Vimy Ridge. It was created using Ancestry's resources, and it's free to search. The Nova Scotia Archives will be updating its online collection of births, marriages, and deaths with the recently released years that became available at the beginning of the year. By June, there will be births for the year 1916, marriages from 1941, and deaths from 1966. These represent over 25,000 records. The Ontario Council of University Libraries has released more than 1,000 historical topographic maps of Ontario. The maps span the years from 1906 to 1977. You can use the maps to see how Ontario has changed over time. The map view allows you to have a base map and then use the transparency slider to see how the area has changed over time. Genealogists can use these maps to learn about the place where their ancestors lived. The Genealogist, a subscription site in the UK, has announced the addition of some new record collections. More than 2.5 million people have been added to the parish records for Hampshire and Durham. Parish records contain records for baptism, marriage, and burial. Many of the records go back to the 1500s. There's a new collection called the British and India Collection. During the time that India was under British rule, millions of British people went to India. The new collection consists of parish records of British in India, headstone records of British cemeteries in India, British war memorials in India, East India registers, Indian Army and Civil Service lists, and an image archive of British in India. May 12th is International Nurses Day. The Forces War Records, a subscription military genealogy website, will be releasing their new World War I and World War II nurses collection. The records will provide information about registration number, married and maiden names, permanent address, date and place of registration, training hospital, and dates of qualification. The collection will be free to access from May 12th through the 14th in honor of International Nurses Day. Moore's Head magazine has a special issue available called Tracing Your Scottish Ancestors. It will be available on May 1st. The author for this issue is the expert on Scotland genealogy, Christine Woodcock. Some of the articles are Breaking Through Brick Walls, Understanding the Scottish Naming Pattern, Researching Scottish Occupations, The Scottish Clearances, Planning a Trip to Your Ancestral Homeland, Your Scottish Genealogy Toolbox, Criminal Ancestors, and The Scots and the Hudson's Bay Company. The PDF version of the magazine cost $8.50, and the hard copy cost $9.95 plus shipping. Archive Digital is the subscription website where you can browse Swedish records. Some household examination records are indexed. They have added birth, marriage, and death records to the site for the year 1946. There is a Swedish law that records must be kept private until after 70 years. These new records are extract from the SCB, or Bureau of Central Statistics. Eventually, all SCB extracts will be indexed so you can easily locate the parish. Registration is now open for the Great Canadian Genealogy Summit. It will be held October 13th through the 15th in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Full conference registration costs $189. General registration is open for the 2017 British Institute that will be held September 18th through the 22nd in Salt Lake City, Utah. There are 4 tracks to choose from: DNA as a genealogical tool with Morris Gleason, English genealogical research before 1837 with Amy Harris, Finding Irish Ancestors Before the Great Famine with Fiona Fitzsimmons, and Scottish Family History Research, Where and How to Find the Real Records with Bruce Dury. Classes are small so that students receive individual instruction. Classroom sessions are held in the morning, and the afternoons are spent researching at the Family History Library. General registration is $430 with hotel and meals on your own. Family Search will be holding a free Western European Family History Conference from May 15th through the 19th. As with previous conferences, most sessions will be broadcast as webinars. If you are in Salt Lake City, you can attend live. Content will focus on research in Germany, France, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Belgium. Topics include census, church, immigration, and vital records. Now for some things coming up. On Tuesday, April 11th at noon Eastern, there'll be a Family Search webinar, What's New at FamilySearch.org. At 2 p.m. on that Tuesday, there'll be another Family Search webinar, Starting Chinese Genealogy, and that will be in English. At 4 p.m. Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be Exploring Death Notices in Norway. And then on that same Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, the BYU Family History Library webinar will be How You Can Help with Record Preservation, presented by James Tanner. Then at 9 p.m. Eastern, the Illinois State Genealogical Society webinar will be Tracing Slave and Slave Owner Ancestors with DNA and Genealogy, presented by Nika Smith. On Wednesday, April 12th at 11 a.m. Eastern, over in the UK, the National Archives there, they'll have a webinar, Death, Dirt, and Disease in the 19th Century. On Wednesday, April 12th at noon Eastern, Family Search webinar will be French Language Records Indexing. Also at noon Eastern, Dear Myrtle will be having a hangout called Why Host Virtual Meetings? Free Tools. At 2 p.m. on that Wednesday, the Family Search webinar will be Tracing Ancestry in Scotland's Heritable Land Records. At 4 p.m. Eastern on that Wednesday, the Family Search webinar will be Family Search Family Tree. And I have a little note here, the schedule lists a Swedish webinar, but that will not be the subject. It will be the Family Search Family Tree. And then Wednesday on April 12th at 6 p.m. Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be Using the Online Pennsylvania Archives. At 8 p.m. Eastern, the Legacy webinar will be Your Whiteboard in the Cloud, Trello for Genealogists, presented by Lisa Alzo. On Thursday, April 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be Scottish Naming Customs. At 3 p.m., the New England Historical Genealogical Society webinar will be A Guide to Connecticut Resources, presented by Claire Amon. And then still on that Thursday, April 13th, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, the BYU Family History Library webinar will be Researching in a Library or Archive, presented by James Tanner. On Friday, April 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern, the Legacy webinar will be Complete Photo Restoration in 4 Easy Steps, presented by Eric Bazer. Also on that Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, the BYU Family History Library webinar will be Digging Deeper into Google for Genealogists, presented by James Tanner. On Friday, April 14th at 10 p.m. Eastern, there'll be a Twitter Gen Chat. The topic will be Resources Library Archives Canada. On Saturday, April 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be in Spanish. Conquer Mythology Using Sources. On Tuesday, April 18th at noon Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be Tips and Tricks for Using Family Search's Historical Records. Also on that Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, the BYU Family History Library webinar will be Beginning Danish Research, Sorting Out the Places, presented by James Tanner. At 8 p.m. Eastern on that Tuesday, the BCG Legacy webinar will be The Genealogy and Government Documents, presented by Rick Sayer. And then at 8 p.m. on that Tuesday, the Wisconsin State Genealogical Society webinar will be Postmasters, Carriers, and Railway Clerks, Genealogy Records of the USPS, presented by Michael Strauss. Then on Wednesday, April 19th at noon Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be Dutch Language Records Indexing. At 2 p.m. on that Wednesday, the Legacy webinar will be Neighborhood Reconstruction, Effective Use of Land Records. And then at 3 p.m. on that Wednesday, the Family Search webinar will be Beginning Finnish Research, a Case Study. At 9 p.m. on that Wednesday, the Southern California Genealogical Society webinar will be So Many Historic Books, How Can I Find My People?, presented by James Baker. On Thursday, April 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be Starting Family Tree, Research Help and Searching Records. At 3:30 p.m. on that Thursday, the BYU Family History Library webinar will be Buying Technology, a Genealogist Primer, presented by James Tanner. At 8 p.m. Eastern on that Thursday, the Florida State Genealogical Society Poolside Chat will be Your Own Digital Archivist, Preserve Your Research, presented by Cindy Engel. At 9 p.m. on that Thursday, the Utah Genealogical Association will have a webinar Discovering the Family History Guide, presented by James Tanner. On Friday, April 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be How to Trace Scotland's Poor. You can find all of the webinars mentioned and more at the calendar at geniatopia.com. That's it for this episode. From now on, each episode will also be available on YouTube, just the audio with an image, no real video. You can send email to geniatopia@gmail.com. You can find links to things mentioned in this show in the show notes at geneatopia.com, as well as a transcript. The transcript can also be found in the Geneatopia Board magazine. This is episode 100. Thanks for listening.